Come on, that's awesome. Are you here with your church? And the name of the church is?
Grace Church Seminar.
Awesome.
So the whole eldership thing with the lead pastor and stuff.
So good. So glad.
We're loving it so far.
Yeah. Are you guys part of the GCC?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff.
Recently joined.
Good job. Welcome. Welcome. How you doing? My name's Jerry.
Jerry, nice to meet you.
What's your name?
Caleb.
Kaylin?
Caleb.
Where are you from?
Georgetown.
Awesome. Very nice. Your name?
Hi, Christine.
Christine, nice to meet you. Awesome. What's the name of the church you're with?
Living Hope.
Living Hope. What's your role there?
Student ministries pastor.
Awesome. Awesome. Why'd you pick this seminar?
Just want to lead better.
Awesome. I hope this is helpful. I really do. I hope it's helpful.
You're doing this, right?
Yeah, you know. Someone had someone. Yeah, thank you. It's good. It's good. Ben,
How we doing, man?
can I tag you in? Can I tag you in at any point? At any point? Come on.
Dude, I'm here to take in, man. I need help.
Dude, I pray. I really do. I pray. I pray. I just asked Ben the same thing. Can I tag you guys in at any point?
I'm here to serve you, but I came to glean.
Oh, yes, yes, didn't you?
I did. I did. You need me to hold your arms up.
Yeah. If the check engine light comes on, just come up and bail me out, would you? Yes. Yes.
Any bad examples? We got you.
That's so funny.
So, we could serve guys who are running towards the hole.
That sometimes is the best, actually. You all right?
Yeah.
Good. Was it? Sorry. You're gonna make me wait.
3:30?
Yeah. 3:30.
That's behind.
We're gonna do the session where everyone either rolls in late and they just skip because they're senior pastors and they don't need seminars, you know? Sometimes that happens. Look at this. My friend.
I
My
tackled
friend.
him and didn't realize he broke his collarbone, so I almost broke
Oh
it
my
again.
word. Dude, I might be careful hugging you.
You don't have to.
I mean, you should be a little
A little
careful.
bit, just not hard.
Right.
Don't
You got you. I got you. Did everyone get a handout on your way in? Everyone? Got one of these? Awesome. Hi. All right, what's your name? Dave. Dave, nice to meet you. Jerry. Jerry. Yep. Just going to set that there. Love you. Good to see you. Oh, bless you. Here we go. So we got guys rolling in. Come on in, guys. Good to see you. My friend. I haven't seen you since a Zoom call, I don't think. Good to see you again. He did church planner training over Zoom in 2020. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what every good developing plurality wishes their senior leader. Don't mess up. Fantastic. All right, it's 3:30. How y'all doing? Lots of words have already been spoken, right? So your brains are already full, your hearts are already warmed. So this is a bonus session. So if you don't remember any word that I spoke, just know what a wonderful day that it's already been, and know that you have notes in front of you. You have pens, so write. Even if the brain doesn't retain all that we captured today, just write ferociously. And pastors lean on an elder and say, hey, would you please take really good notes for us? Because that will be really helpful. So, okay, while you guys work that out. Is there minor amplification in here? I'm hearing it. Awesome. Come on in, guys. All right, how many senior pastors in the room? How many? Yes, awesome. That's good. How many elders are in the room? How many elders? Fantastic. How many pastors in the room also serve as elders in their context? Raise your hand. Yes, as a fellow elder, Peter said, hey, guys, welcome. So, fascinating to lead a session in a room full of individuals who could lead the session. And so God's grace be upon us. I have one credential to share with you. Welcome, friend. Wonderful kilt you have on. Just stating the obvious. One credential that I have is the same credential you hold, and that's the one that we just sat through an incredible sermon regarding. And God's grace and the power of the gospel, for sure. And if I bring any experience to this, and if there's any credential found in that, what I bring to you is a elder team that I absolutely love. I'm bringing to you experience of 12 men who serve faithfully together. They love each other. They love me. They pour into me. They pray over me. They rescue me from my own mistakes over and over and over and over again. And by God's grace, they look to me. And I don't know if you've ever felt overwhelmed by that. I can tell you that I feel overwhelmed by that just about on a daily basis, if not a moment-by-moment basis. And so this elder team has been galvanized together through fire. Some of you know my story. If you don't know it, ask a friend. Somebody will know for sure around here. Team stuck together, hung with me, believed in what the Lord had planted and had commissioned us towards. So galvanized by fire, but secondarily, thrusted, compelled now, having been through that season with a mission, a unity that comes in the midst of this mission that we all kind of been entrusted with. And so if you need any motivation for why this seminar matters, you just sat through the message that tells you the gospel is the most important thing, and the way you lead will either accelerate the spreading of that mission or you could deaden it in your context. Will you ever thwart the gospel with your nonsense? No. No. But what you have the capacity to do in the midst of your team, in the midst of your plurality, is what? If pastors, we in the room would humble ourselves and really seek to build up the individuals around us and not fight against them, we can move the gospel forward. That's what this seminar is about. How about this? Did anybody have to read the title 3 times to try to figure out, I wonder what this seminar is actually going to be about? Because if you parse the title, it could be about 5 things. And so first we pray, then we parse the title so that we know what in the world we're here for. All right? So, Matt Giesman, would you pray for us as we get started? Love that. Please.
Father, you are good and gracious to us, and we thank you for this time that we can gather together to be shepherded and sit under teaching that we all do. And even as part of it includes humility. We ask that you would humble us, and we confess that now. Our need for this time here together, and I pray that you speak through Jerry. Bless him with clarity of thought and speech to give instruction that is needed to be heard this afternoon.
Amen. All right, title. First part of the title, if your paper reads the same as mine, it's pastor as leader. Does anybody feel like that's slightly redundant? Like pastor as leader. Okay, pastor as what else? Every context, anything you would put in that place, pastor as shepherd. Yeah, leading. Pastor as counselor. Yeah, leading. Pastor as servant. Yeah, but still leading. Like we have no choice but to be leaders. Some of us thrust into this role. Others of us longing for this role for a long time. Howard Hendricks said this regarding leaders. A leader is someone who knows where he is going. A leader is someone who knows where he is going and is able to persuade others to go. What a simple definition. I know it's not on your notes. It's so worth writing down. When I found out the number of people in this seminar, I had to rework my introduction. Would like to do a lot more collaboration with you than we probably will be able to do in a group this size. So a leader is someone who knows where he is going and is able to persuade others to go. That's the pressure that we feel, pastors. It can be exhausting. Everywhere you go, you're a leader. In your home, you're a leader. In the office, you're a leader. Amongst the staff, you're a leader. In the community, you don't always want to be a leader. And so it's usually in the awkward context where you yell out something on the sideline of the soccer field that you shouldn't to motivate your son or to encourage a referee to do what they ought to be doing, where you're reminded that, oh yeah, I forgot, I'm actually a leader. Bummer. Had that happen? Okay, Saturday. Wasn't in the notes, there it is. That's a confession. Somebody pray. Ready? Go. Oh my, leader in counseling. And what about the weight of being a leader in the pulpit? There's some of you in this room who wish you could just lock yourself in your study, bury yourself in your books, come out and preach, and then go back into your study, be amongst your books, and spend time with all of your dead friends. Alas, you're a pastor. Bummer. Like, it's such a bummer. Like, oh my word. I thought pastor and preacher somehow could be separated here. The privilege to preach comes through the pathway of being called to actually shepherd the people who you're trying to see changed by what you're giving to them week in and week out. And oftentimes, the opportunity and what compels them to listen to you and not the other podcasters and more competent communicators is the fact that you actually lead them well. If you want people to listen to your preaching, just love them as you lead them. People have sat through a lot of bad sermons. By my estimation, they've given me a lot of grace because they know at the least that I mean well. Maybe it's just me, out of all of these contexts that we find ourselves being called to lead, especially as a young pastor, and especially as a guy who even looks younger than he is the most intimidating place, I believe, for a pastor is in the elder room. Your vocation is literally in their hands. Your future is literally like they didn't go to seminary necessarily. They didn't have the same bright white call that you had that dropped you to, hey, Mike Willis, I just saw you smiling. Sorry, that was not, sorry. Love you. They didn't have this, that was just random. Holy Spirit wants to encourage you right now. So random. Okay. They didn't see the same bright white call you saw. But here they are at a church, and by chance, some of you actually begged them to come in the room. That was the special breakfast. That was the compelling lunch. They just happened to be around. They happened to be breathing and willing, and they stayed the longest to set up the chairs, and somehow they're your guy until they weren't your guy. Sitting around a table, carrying the pressure of what Howard Hendricks says is needing to know where you're going. Having to cast vision, put out fires, set direction, lead, and then somehow or another persuade men who are often older, most times wiser, more connected and experienced than you. At least that was my story, for sure. The question is, how does a pastor lead with conviction and humility within a developing plurality? And if you haven't noticed, this word plurality has infused our collective, and what we mean by it is eldership. What we mean by it is elders and pastors working together as the leadership team. We lead in plurality. We lead not one man. We lead together in consensus, individuals, men called by God to bear the weight of the flock, of the vision of the church. In our context, I have the privilege and the weight of casting vision, bringing that vision to the elder team for them to refine, for them to seek after the Lord, for them to pray, for them to tear it apart and make it better. How many love that experience every month or every planning meeting, every year? How awesome is that moment when you breathed all the breath you have into this idea and they were like, that's pretty neat. But what about the, so we're leading with conviction and humility amongst a team that's developing. That's the context. How does a leader lead in the context of actually recruiting the team, building the team, commissioning the team, reassembling the team? How does he keep them motivated? How does he come around them? That's what we're going to talk about. Session 1, in the midst of this, is what are some of the seminal seeds that need to be planted at the beginning of the assembly? What are these foundation stones that need to be set? And so when I think about conviction and humility amongst a leader, amongst a pastor, don't you think of Timothy immediately? Again, not in your notes. 1 Timothy 4 reads this way: let no one despise you for your youthfulness. We know that. We've quoted that how many times? But set the believers an example in speech and conduct and love and faith and purity. Until I come, Paul writes, this young, humble, okay, more than humble, he's timid, isn't he? Our timidity sometimes gets confused with humility, and that's where you find your insecurity. That will be your death knell if you don't deal with it. And so he says to him, young Timothy, one who is timid. I need you to devote yourself to the public reading of Scripture. I need you to be exhorting, and I need you to be teaching, and I need you to not neglect the gift that is given to you, because when you feel overwhelmed and you feel incompetent and you feel like you can't, I need you to remember where your authority comes from. It's from God. But notice where Timothy actually had this confirmation of this gift and authority placed upon him. It was given to you by the prophecy when the council of elders laid their hands on you. Practice these things, immerse yourself in them so that all may see your progress. Keep close watch on yourself and on your teaching. Persist in this. That's conviction. Like, Timothy, I need you to have conviction about the way that you lead. I know you're overwhelmed, but there's a gift inside of you. You've got to fan it into flame. Because if you do, you're going to save yourself and some others as well. When I think of humility of conviction, I think of Timothy, and when I think of ordering the actual plurality, I think of Titus. You guys know this text. Titus 1:5. Titus 1:5. Titus 1:5. Titus, I left you behind. Why? So that you can set in order what remains. You can set in order what remains. You can set in order what remains, but notice the first thing that Titus is called to do as it pertains to setting in order. What's the very next thing he says? Appoint elders in every church. I can't get an elder team in one church. This guy's going to just go around the whole island, just elder team after elder team after elder team after elder team. I want that guy on my team. The S is there. It's churches. I need you to set up pluralities in every church. What? Both men, Timothy and Titus, are called to be leaders, trained as colleagues by Paul. But catch this. What are they to do? They're to plant churches, these two men, and they're to strengthen leaders. They are to develop pluralities in every context, even as pluralities have developed them. They're to go and develop pluralities even as pluralities have developed them. One of the greatest credentials you can bring into the elder room is this. Listen, guys, I don't have much to give you. I don't have much to bring. But this much I know. The generation before you laid their hands on me. And I can't not do what I've been asked to do and commissioned to do right now. I might not be great at it. I might not be the best at it. But right now, until God says otherwise, this is the role that I get to fill. You see it? That's a different posture, I think, than a lot of men seek to lead with. They're called to develop pluralities, even as pluralities have developed them. We need each other. That's why I asked who are senior pastors in this room and who are elders in this room, because if you take Hendrick's definition, the way the church really moves forward is this. It's when together we know where we're going. So that when we together know where we are going, then we'll be able to persuade others to go. Some of you are reaching over your elders and you're trying to persuade the people in the pews and you're wondering why it's not working. Until you've persuaded your elders, you're not going to persuade your church. And if you do persuade your church and you haven't persuaded the elders, you've just blown the thing up. I got the pulpit. Really? 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 If you don't convince your elders, so when I asked Robin to marry me, one of the convictions that I had, by the way, her father's been in ministry for over 50 years. I am a blue-collar kid from western Pennsylvania in the Appalachian Mountains, born to teenage parents, 16 and 18. My grandparents took me to church. And so for me, my wife has a father who's been in ministry for 50 years. And we met in Bible college. How I got there is a whole other story. She knew what we were getting into. I did not. But one of the convictions, I knew this much, and I said, honey, we will never go further in ministry than we can go together. Your spouse is a governor for your soul, and so are your elders. So are your elders. I want to hear from God. Good. Listen to your elders. But they're sinning. I know. That which is meant for evil, literally God means for good. He's either going to work through the plurality or he's not. He's either going to work through the plurality or he's not. I remember sitting in meetings where one guy's like, no. We, in our context, have a conviction, 12 elders. We lead by consensus. We don't move on to everyone, at least we haven't had to move on until everyone is aligned. Guys will say, I'm not all over this, but I'm not standing behind it. You have my yes. Like we've gotten to that point. But there was one particular issue, no. 11 of the guys were in. And we all looked at each other and we said, well, all right, we're going to pray about it. We're going to come back. And had we not listened to that guy, we would have made a major mistake. Either you believe in the consensus of a plurality or you don't. It's God's governor. And it's God's accelerant. When you have those men, oh my word, elders in this room, when you breathe life on your pastor, when he has to stand in a pulpit and open a book that we just talked about today that is being like marginalized in society, we're crazy for what we're doing. Knowing you have their back enables us to do what God's called us to do. I'm telling you. We got to stand before the church and cast a vision, and we know that you've already vetted it, and you're behind it, and if all the questions that come, you're ready to answer it. Like, I will, just give me a mic. Let me go. Like, when we know that you aren't looking at us alone to carry all the shepherding weight of the church, but you're actually willing to lead as actual shepherds, not just yes, no board members, oh my word, we're about to get something done. So, pastor as leader, how do we lead? How do we lead? How do we get there? That's what this workshop's about. The key to lead, I think one of the keys to leading and inspiring pluralities is understanding how they work and that they work. Follow me on this. The Spirit of God has called us, all of us. The Spirit unites us. The mission fuels us. Prayer strengthens us. Worship inspires us. Like, you ever going to get to your point? Yes, I'm coming. But the place where we most often meet is in the work. Feel it? Elders and pastors, like it's a function. By definition, a function is a action, it's a role, it's a movement, it's what you do. It's not merely who you are, it's also you are called an elder because you eld. You're called a pastor because you pastor, right? You're called a shepherd because you actually shepherd. And so where we find ourselves, what gets really confusing is we're supposed to be about all these spiritual things, but at the end of the day, when we get into the elder room, there's just so much work that has to be done. And we find ourselves kind of cattywampus and out of balance sometimes because there's work to be done. There's work to be done. There's work to be done. Catch this. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 12. That's the first passage in your notes. You're like, finally, we're at the notes. We're going to move. 1 Thessalonians 5:12, I love this text as it pertains to leadership because the actual offices, if you will, aren't even mentioned here. The functions are. And so I'm asking you, brothers, to respect those who labor among you and are over you in the Lord and admonish you, and to esteem them very highly in love because of their, everyone say it together, because of their work. Stop apologizing for doing work. Just do the right work. Like, stop apologizing for doing work. Just do the right work. Like, esteem the men for their work. Elders, esteem the pastors for their work. Pastors, look at your elders and say, the work that you do, we wouldn't be who we are. We wouldn't be able to go where we go if it wasn't for the work that you do. Hello, we're all men. Whether we ought to or not, we identify ourselves with our work. Sometimes too much so. But now you have a verse for it. But how do you not let the work and the esteeming of your work become an idol? Okay, you've been affirmed in your work. Great. You've been affirmed to do a lot of things. How do you keep that from not becoming an idol in your context? What I want to do for you is now in this is understanding that there is spiritual work to be done. And as you're assembling your quote unquote by the power of the Spirit, as the elder team is being assembled, what I want you to first recognize is this. Point 1 in your notes. As you're assembling a team, accept that every single member of this team has a core ambition in the work. If an elder says yes to the role, they're saying yes to the work. And if they're saying yes to the work, they have a definition in their mind of what the work is. And if their definition of the work is not the same as your definition of the work, all of a sudden we have a splitting of the way, and now this work or this work, what work do we really want to be focusing on? There are 3 ambitions that I believe exist in the heart of a leader. I believe that there are 3 ways to look at the very makeup of your church's leadership team. Listen, every church has a cause. There's a cause, pastor, that we are to be about. Go ye therefore into all the world, make disciples. We're to reach the nations. We just prayed about it. There's a cause. We need to go. We need to be. We need vision. We're out front. But now this. There's a community that needs to be shepherded and cared for in every context. So here you are. You have a cause that you're being looked at to pursue. In the midst of the pursuit of this cause, there is a community that needs you, that is looking to you, that longs for your attention, if you will, hopefully in a healthy way. And then this other C that we don't always like to talk about, but if you don't have it, blows the other 2 up. It's the corporation. If you would have told me that I needed to understand how business works to be a pastor, I was like, what are you talking about? Like mortgage rates and like term limits and I don't know, 401(b)(3)s. What is that? Like, there are bills to pay, there are lights to have on, there are people to hire, there are staff that need to be there's staff meetings that go on, right? Like, if we were having this session right now and all of a sudden all the lights went out in Oakville, in Hope Church here, right? If all the lights went out and someone just came in and said, I apologize, men, we're so embarrassed, but we just forgot to pay the electric bill this month. You're leading the cause? And inside of all of your pluralities, inside of each of our elder teams, and indeed inside of each of us, they have a primary ambition. Can you name the guys right now? Can you name the guys in your elder team that are all about the cause? Pastor, I love your vision. I absolutely love the vision that you're casting. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. We're running out of room. Fine. Yes. Yes, I get it. We need to be thinking about the next place we're going to be. Oh, yes. A food pantry. Wonderful. I love that. But do you know that we have needs in our own church right now? When's the last time we prayed through our constituency list as a church and just loved on people, Pastor? Is he right? Probably. Any of y'all have engineers on your board? Okay, I'm blowing up the myth right now. I absolutely love engineers on our board. Love them. These guys are so hardwired to pick up the details. When they love Jesus and they use that plight that God has placed upon them, and they're willing to share whatever virus is in them and infect the rest of us with the nonsense that they peddle from time to time. The way they pump the brakes and hold up meetings, oh my word, don't you just love them? These guys. Your elder team is an accelerant and a governor from the Lord. I need someone to proofread my emails. Oh Lord, help me. It's not the elder team, obviously, but it reminds me what? That my mind is not always in the details. I want to be a visionary. I need someone who takes a look at these ideas and says, yo, dude, really? We may want to think about how we're going to handle our current debt load first. You're right. You're right. I love people. I just don't think about them a lot if I'm not in front of them. Is that too honest? I love people. If you get time with me, I promise I will give you my undivided attention while we're in one another's presence. Whatever you need, ask me. I'm here for you. But the minute you walk away, I will think of you for about 4 more minutes. And the Lord will bring you to mind at other times. But I'm telling you, there are people on our teams who are especially gifted that they lie awake at night thinking about the people. I need those guys. I love those people. I feel awful when I forget that someone was having, I feel awful when I forget that they told me on Sunday they were having a surgery and I should have written it down, I should have shared it with somebody, and now I'm a heel, and when I remember it? You know when I usually remember it? When I get up to preach and I look out and I see that, I'm like, oh, well, today's message is on forgiveness and pastoral stupidity. You been there? It's so real. It's so real. Do you know yours? Cause Community Corporation. By the way, someone wants to tell you that as a pastor, you have to live here. We live in such just a vision-driven kind of a world as far as churches are concerned. If your church isn't growing and you don't have vision for the next 20 years, that's tomorrow's session. He didn't name it, by the way. If you don't have vision for the next 20 years, somehow you're failing. Come on, guys. I really respect the guys whose primary gift is shepherding, and he's willing to lean on a visionary. I think that's super cool. And look out for the pastor who actually has this leaning. I'm telling you right now, that guy's a machine. I would start naming names, but it would get awkward. If you look at our collective, you can start to put guys in each of these spheres. You can look at their churches and say, oh, that's why. That's why. Cause Community Corporation. Go, care, order. Go, care, order. Go, care, order. Check this out, guys. In Paul's job description in Ephesians chapter 3, you can see these 3 spheres. Paul says about his call. Me, the very least of all the saints, Ephesians 3, 8, 9, you can write it in your margin, was given me this grace, to preach the gospel cause to the Gentiles, and to bring to light for everyone what is the plan. You know what the word plan is there? It's administration. To bring forward the administration of the mystery, to put the church in order. I've been called to preach the gospel and order the church. When you look at the pastoral epistles, what you see is household order. I write these things so that if I am delayed, you would know how to conduct yourself in an orderly way in the church. Paul had cause. Paul had order. Now this, the mystery, to reveal the administration of the mystery in God who created all things, so that through the church, he never lost sight of what? The gem, the jewel of heaven, that which adorned the gospel the brightest, that fueled all the other things, was the brilliant unity in the church. That's your community. So this isn't just like a made-up deal. Like, these are real things that I believe every pastor needs to be tending to. We actually organize our elder team meeting around cause, community, and corporation. You know what that does? It lets every elder know that their thing is going to be talked about tonight. Let's talk about some cause. Let's revisit the vision that we talked about last week, or the month, the work that we did there. Let's bring it back up. This section is all about cause. Let's get after it. All right, community. Ready? Here's community. Shepherding report. Here's what's happening in the soul care world. Come on, ask your questions now. Let's get after these folks. It allows the meeting to be a little bit equitable. It's not always going to work out perfectly from month to month. One will be longer than the other depending on the issues that are in front of you. But I'm telling you guys, if you can identify in your leaders where they live, now you can also begin to commission them in those contexts as well. You can affirm them. You need shepherding sub-teams as you grow, obviously. Cause, community, corporation. Cause, community, corporation. One more thing I want to say here is this. Cause is where oftentimes the church finds its significance, right? Community is where people come to the church and find security. You know what the corporation provides? What every single home in this room needs, and that's stability. You get these three wheels turning, I'm telling you. You get these three wheels turning and you affirm these three spheres inside your eldership, men, breathe life into them. You need every one of these spheres, and at the center of it, obviously, at the center of this work is Christ. That's point 2. We need to accept that every one of these members has a core ambition in the work. It's okay. Paul had ambition, Ephesians 15:20. I made it my ambition to preach the gospel. You know what else was his ambition? To order the community. You know what else was his ambition? To reveal the administration of the church, to preach, strengthen, and appoint leaders. He did it from town after town after town. He knew the cause would be furthered. He knew the community would be cared for and strengthened. And he knew that that region was secure and stable when an eldership plurality was formed in that context. That's the plan. Okay? That's the mission, actually. Accept that everyone has a core ambition. Number 2, acknowledge that Jesus is the center of the work. Acknowledge that Jesus is the center of the work. I need to surrender all my ambitions to Jesus, who's at the center of my work. Of our work, actually. So this is where we enter obligatory story of Mary and Martha here. Anybody want to take a swing at preaching this one, just real quick? 5 minutes? Okay, no? Fine, you already know the story. Mary sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. Martha was distracted with much serving. We all know it. The application here is so evident. It's easy to get consumed in the work. But not just any work. We get consumed with the work that we tend to care about most. Mary liked to do that kind of work. She wanted, notice, Jesus doesn't chastise her for working. He doesn't exhort her for working. He exhorts her for putting her work above him and his word. You see it? what she's doing is good. Who doesn't want to provide it? Like if Jesus came to your house, would you not provide him a good meal? Of course you would. But you know what a lot of us are doing week in and week out and how we're leveraging our elder teams? Polished kitchens. Well-situated worship centers. Lighting just right for Jesus to come, you know? We want the meal like just so. Everything perfect. And we're going to spend all of our time discussing whether we should buy the next widget to make the gadget shine the light in just the right spot so that we can have the right atmosphere for us to actually have our meal delivered. What's happening in this context is she's sitting at Jesus' feet to do what? Receive the word. And if I think there's any rebuke in this text for us in our context, is that we're doing the very thing that Martha was doing, and that was situating all the details of the meal and not making the meal the main thing. Fascinating. And when our elder teams begin to feel that the lights have to be just so on us, yeah, they have every right to bristle at that. And so how do we counteract that? Well, I say this, worship is the counteract. What was Mary commended for doing? Sitting at Jesus' feet and listening to his teaching, worship. And so we're going to worship before we work. We're going to worship as we work individually and together, and we're going to worship after we work. Your elder meetings ought to be the most worshipful experience in the church. That's what I propose to you. What if we don't sing in our meetings? Well, sing a song. There's not a more glorious thing than to hear men singing like a cappella to their Lord. In our context, we have our elders, 12 men. We have our pastors also come into the meeting because I don't want to be a go-between. They can hear from the men how they feel about things. I don't have anything to hide. And they can share as well in the meetings. They're pastors. Come on, they can participate. And then we have elder interns in the room as well, men who are just observing and kind of getting acclimated to the culture, who may or may not become elders ultimately, but we got to trust them, and so they're there. And we'll look to Brett, our worship guy, and say, hey man, would you just bring a song? Would you just bring a song? We need to sing tonight. We just need to start this meeting. We got to sing. Let's reflect on this past week and what God did, and let's just sing a song. And again, a song's not the answer, but it is so helpful. Proverbs 16, let's worship before we work. Commit your work to the Lord, that your plans will be established. What I would say here is be intentional about the agenda that is before you and set expectations for the time. And so, guys, here's the agenda tonight. Can we just pray over it before we start? It sounds so silly even saying it, but ask different elders to share a devotion, to share a thought before your meeting. It's so simple. But we need to worship before we work so that we can worship while we work. 1 Corinthians 10:31, so whatever you do, eat or drink or whatever, do all to the glory of God. One of the things that we've created in our context and in our culture is at any point, so we'll set expectation, hey, this is what God has done, this is what we've seen him do, this is what we've been praying for, and we keep a log and a tally of things that we've been praying for as an elder team and goals that we're setting. That's where the cause thing is so important, or what the community reports. Like, we make it a thing that at any point in the meeting, any man can stop and pray. Just any point. Can we just pray for that? We talked about this last month. We were 10,000 behind. And did you see the stewardship report? Can we just stop and thank God right now? I'm telling you, it's so simple, but it changes the culture. And not you calling for it. Like, any elder at any point, just, can we stop and pray? I just want to thank God right now for that. Acknowledge the Lord's presence. Ask for wisdom. Praise him in the moment. Like, do you ever feel like sometimes as a leader, like you're being grilled? No? Yes? Yes? Because, I don't really know. I actually don't have an answer for that yet. You know what? Can we just stop and pray for it right now? I hadn't actually thought that far ahead. I'm a visionary. I don't know. It's a great question, though. Guys, you can diffuse so many conflicts by just going with that conflict to the Lord in the moment immediately. Don't even carry it out of the room. Just go pray. We've stopped. I've watched it. Boiling. It's the temperature's rising in the room. Guys are starting to raise their voices. Oh, this is so much. Sometimes you just let it go because it's fun to watch. Because they're going at it and they're not at you. You're like, this is all right. I'm just going to grab another cup of coffee. You guys work it out. I'll be back. Like, I've had those moments. But then there's other times, again, trusting the Lord, you stop and you say, you know what, guys? Pause. I can sense that we're all, like, really passionate about this, and we should be. Our cause, community, and corporation showing right now, we just need to stop and pray. We just have to. Because we're going to worship while we work. And as soon as we stop worshiping while we work, the work stops getting done. You want to do it in the flesh, you want to do it in the spirit. You got to, the moment you have to win that point, I'm telling you, it's a battle we all fight. The minute you have to be right, do you trust the plurality or don't you? So exhausting, isn't it? But when you see the ball advance, even when you conceded, I'm telling you, it's contagious. And then you wake up and you realize God was doing it. And it wasn't your conniving. What you do to get there is what you got to keep doing to stay there. You don't want that. What you do to get there is what you got to keep doing to stay there. And if you had to have a side conversation before the meeting with the guy to get the yes, you've just empowered him to have every side conversation for everything that you want to get forward for the rest of infinitum. Do you trust the Lord or not? You do. You do. It's not you do. Say I do. We just forget sometimes. Because we feel like we need to lead. And we got to get this thing going. Because time is of the essence. And I got to get a sermon done, and I got to preach tomorrow, or I got to get the writing done tomorrow, and this wheel does not stop turning. And you are holding things up right now. Before you work, while you work, come on, guys, we got to worship after we work. This is one of my favorite exercises that we do as an elder team. We've got to get back to it. As I was writing this up, I actually realized we haven't been doing it well recently. We actually do this thing at the end of every elder meeting, at least we had been. What's your one thing? What's your one thing from this meeting that just, like, that was your thing, that it encouraged you to the max? Like, what was the one thing that where you saw, what was the one place you saw God show up tonight? What was the one word another member of this team spoke that just made your soul come alive tonight? I want to hear it. We want to hear it. The encouragement that goes around the room at the end of a meeting when guys will stop and say, you know what? I was so blown away by Pastor Brett's report on worship. Like, when he shared this, like, I remember 2 months ago, we were praying with him about that, and then he shared tonight. Like, that was just such an encouragement to me. Now, that takes stewardship. You got to budget some time for it, but I'm telling you, that's worship. Thanksgiving. Give praise to God in all things. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The work is so exhausting, Matthew 11. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, For I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. How many meetings have you left feeling like that? How many meetings have you left not feeling like that? We put so much weight in the meeting. Let's invite God to it. That's the key. This is the foundation block you have to lay early. It's a developing plurality, remember? We're all developing. If you implement the one thing and it works for you, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear how it encourages you. So when you're inviting guys to the table, that's point one. When you're gathering your team, you're accepting they all have ambitions. When you're in the room, when you're with your team, when you're all together, you're acknowledging that Jesus is the center of your work and you're doing everything you can to keep him there in the midst of this tension. But what about when you leave the room? That's point three. You need to align each other's contribution to the work. You need to align each other's contribution to the work. When you all leave the room, we need unity. And so now I'm going to give you this rather quickly. Mainly because it's like, whatever, it's kind of like pastoral pithy, like it's preachy pithy, so whatever. Like if it's not all that you need, it's fine, but you can run with it if it's helpful to you. What I want to affirm in the leaders that I have the privilege to lead is that there are many leaders, but when we leave this room, there's one direction. Many leaders, one direction when we leave this room. We'll come back and revisit it if the direction changes. But when we leave this room, one direction. Okay? There's a mission, that's what we're doing. There's values, that's why we're doing it. There's strategy, that's how we're going to get it done. There's goals that we've set tonight, and we're going to stay with them. Pastor Nate's going to deal with all of those things tomorrow. We're going to identify wins and celebrate them because there's one direction. Okay, number two, there's always multiple teams represented in that room, but there's one destination. Every ministry needs to see its value is pulling in that same direction that's been set. We need to avoid silos and work towards symmetry on the plurality for sure. How do I do that practically? One master schedule, everything gets on it. When you're small, when you're planting, I'm telling you, a calendar, practical. Get a church calendar. And put everything on it. Even the youth stuff? Yes, the youth stuff. Because if you schedule something over the youth stuff, you just hacked off all the youth parents. Like, get a calendar and sync up. One of the ways we show respect and deference towards one another is that we look across the landscape of the team and we value their deal. We have a causal event, we're all going to be there. We have a community initiative that builds up the body, like we're all going to make sure, you see what I'm saying? There's a sense to where, practically speaking, we need to make sure that we are synced up, because that's where the conflict comes in. You have a guy on your team who puts all of his energy in this initiative and like it bombs. Now he's dealing with insecurity, coming back in the room, and you're like, dude, I told you. Told you it wasn't going to work. And you thought the best way for him to learn that lesson was knowingly for him to do that and watch it fail. Awesome. That doesn't go well. Lead. It's not going to work, be honest. Keep going. Many leaders, one direction. Multiple teams, one destination. Many wins, one delight. You see how it's like preachy pithy? Almost moves to cheesy, but it works. Many wins, one delight, no competing goals. This is your job, Pastor. No competing goals. There's not winners and losers in the room. As soon as I'm telling, this is why we personally don't vote. Because somebody loses. Trust me, somebody's keeping score. No competing goals. If you set a goal as a team and you set another goal, you're like, hold on a second, those are going to counteract. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. I'm telling you, keep it on the surface. We win together, we celebrate together. We affirm each other and give Jesus the praise. When we leave that room, many leaders, one direction. Multiple teams, one destination. Many wins, one delight. All right, with 5 minutes. How do we... Some of your best work, pastors, is done on the one-on-one. So we've talked a little bit about, again, this is just surface. You guys could add so much great stuff to this talk. We've talked about what we look for as we're adding to the team, understanding different ambitions are coming to the table. What do we do in the room? We're worshiping, some just practical things to do there. What do we do when we leave the room? But what do you do relationally with the guys? Well, number one, you need to commend how they're woven. What I mean by that is, like, they're not you. Elders, your pastor's not you. Woven, how they're woven, the way God's made them. I'm big on alliteration, and sometimes it moves to awkward. Actually, you know what? No, you want to commend their worth and celebrate how they're woven. Now I understand what I did wrong. Thank you. I'm as tired as you are. Commend their worth. Number 4 is affirm each leader's call to the work. Thank you. We're going to get there together. You see this? This is the plurality in action right now. Affirm each leader's call to the work. Pardon me. It's filled in my paper, so I thought we were good. So commend their worth. There we are. When you're one-on-one, commend their worth and celebrate how they're woven. Yikes. I went to a whole other world there for a second. So here's what we do. Is this in your notes? Hopefully it's already written down in your notes. You see that list there? When you're with a guy, man, elevate their character, align. When you see them aligning with their convictions, man, you just appreciate that. You want to elevate a guy's character and affirm them where you can in their character. You're going to have plenty of opportunities to address their negative attributes. But you know what I love about you? That you've had eye contact with me this entire time and you've smiled and shaken your head yes, even if you agree with me or not. That is so encouraging. Seriously. Like, say it. I love coming down off the platform and saying, like, you are so encouraging to preach to. Like, the way you lean in and the way you actually give me feedback as I'm preaching lets me know that, like, things are going well. Like, learn how to encourage. We are critical beings. We're leaders. Our criticality is through the roof. And I think the Bible has something to say about seeing the good. Again, this is developing plurality. I see all of the yeah, buts coming off of this is the developing plurality. These are the foundation stones to put up front. Somebody else can tend to the landmines later in another session. I'm taking advantage of the assembling the plurality part. What if a guy, I can see that. What if a guy doesn't have any redeeming attributes? Even Judas had a place, right? Even Judas had a place. Guys, you laugh, and I laugh at that. But when I say either you trust the plurality or not, I mean it even to the extent of acknowledging that there could be a guy on the team who's made it his deal to be the heel. And for that season, for whatever reason, God has him there. And you're like, God, what are you doing? What is the refining that you're doing in me? But you know what also happens? Another session, another thing, is the plurality. If you have a healthy plurality, the plurality will deal with it. The plurality will deal with it. The elders will deal with elders. And you may never even hear about the conversation. You talk about a gift. Disciple them. Teach them. The way you treat them is the way they'll treat one another. Fact. You have side conversation with elders, they'll have side conversation with elders. You grease the skids, they'll grease the skids. You share criticality about a guy who's annoying you in the room, they'll show criticality with other guys about how you annoy them in the room. You will reap what you sow in that elder room. You will reap what you sow outside of that elder room in the elder room. It just may take some time. Like, where in the world did that come from? Guys, it is exhausting to keep up with all the conversations you have with people. How about they all just be righteous and you don't have to keep up with them anymore? What hacked that guy off? 5 conversations ago when you said to so-and-so something about that and that involved him, and he caught wind of it? We reap what we sow in the room, what we sow outside of the room, we reap in the room. Find what's good in them and elevate it and affirm them every chance you get. When you see them aligning with the convictions of the church, appreciate them. When you shared at the new members class, which our elders, like kind of in rotation, are invited to, when you shared about how you are just growing in the biblical preaching here, I can't tell you what that did to my soul. I want to thank you. And honestly, I wondered if you could stay awake long enough to actually know that was going well, but thank you. Build competency. When you see them growing in their skill sets, man, you applaud people, and you do it in the room. Applaud them. Applaud the pastors. Applaud the staff. Applaud elders when they do something right, when they do something good, when they do something hard. Anniversaries are a good time to just stop and just, hey, you know what? These 3 guys came on the team 3 years ago, and they're about to renew their eldership. Guys, I want us to go around the room tonight, and I want you to tell them why you would love for them to renew their eldership. I want you to tell them what you appreciate most about them and the contribution they bring to the team. Cultivate chemistry. Cultivate chemistry. If you're unsure of an elder, they're unsure of you. Trust me. And one of the best things you can do is just literally, even when the tension's there, put your arm around a guy and tell him you're praying for him and mean it. Even if you had the talk in the last month's meeting, just go put your arm around him. Praying for you. Assure them that you actually believe what you preach, that you're going to unconditionally love them. You can stab me in the back tomorrow and I'm going to love you. I'm going to be mad. But I'm going to love you. If you can look at your men on the team and say that and believe it, I'm telling you guys, God has something, and they will run through the wall with you. They will. I just believe that's true. And they will walk through the fire with you. If you don't love the men that you're working with, would you just ask God to give you a heart to love the men that you're working with? He's given you those men for this time to either accelerate or slow down what you think is a good idea. And you will go as far as you can go together. The church will be as strong as you as an eldership team will be strong together. You will not be any stronger than your elder team is unified. It will never happen. Don't preach over their heads and align the church if your eldership is not aligned. You have to work through them and with them. Never take praise that isn't also where you don't also include the men who have lifted your hands. Include them in all of the accolades that you have the privilege to be afforded. They serve in a room. They work full-time jobs, sometimes 50 hours a week. And when that meeting starts getting to 10 o'clock, 11 in our context, those guys' eyes are glassing over. They just want to go home. And you're the only thing that's standing in their way. Remember, they're getting up at 5 a.m. Man, I love them for that. Final thing is assess their capacity. Assess their capacity. I'm telling you, if you come around a guy and say, look, I've noticed that you are running hard, and you acknowledge that, and then you give and you say, look, let me know. Let me know if you need something pulled off your plate. Let me know if this is too much right now. You're an elder. That's not changing. God's called you to that. But you being able to assess their capacity, right? Just the ebbs and flows of life, the wife's not healthy, child's acting out in school, like you being on top and in tabs with those things. Look, when as the church grows, you can't shepherd everybody, but guys, if we can't shepherd our elders, if we can't know what's happening in the lives of our elders, that's where we're going to get ourselves into big trouble. So we elevate their character and affirm it. We align, when they see them aligning with the convictions, we appreciate it. We build, when we see them build competency, we applaud it. When we cultivate chemistry, we're always assuring them of it. We love them. And when we see that they're running thin, we acknowledge it. Or when we see they have more capacity, we step right into it. Dude, you're retiring? Woo! Ain't no retirement from eldership. We'd love to see you here. We'd love to see you there. These are foundation stones you put in place. And then celebrate. So we're commending their worth. That was A. Then we're celebrating how they're woven. So here's this. Everyone has a core ambition, the 3 C's. I also want you to know that each man has a different motivation underneath that ambition. And I think Romans 12 and the spiritual giftedness there, Paul's making a point. Study it on your own. You guys all have, I know, but one of the points that Paul is making here is that every member of the body has one of these gifts, right? And gifts are meant to be empowering, not limiting. And so if a guy has a gift of serving, he's sometimes afraid to say it because it means he has to clean the toilets or stuff the envelopes. But you know how many elders are on your team simply because there was a need and they saw it as an opportunity to serve? There are people right now teaching your adult classes. They don't have a gift of teaching. They have a gift of serving, and you had a hole. Right? Each one of those guys is gifted differently. If their gift is, and when you put an issue on the table, all of these spiritual gifts come out from their hiding. Right? The teacher wants to know why and how it works, right? The teacher wants to know how. The prophet wants to know why and is it righteous? Right? The mercy person wants to know how it's going to affect the people we're already caring for. Make sense? The giver is going to say, can we afford it? And are you holding your hand out to me again? Follow the gifts. You have core ambitions, the big ideas, cause, community, corporation guys, but then inside of those motivations, you have these individual macro ambitions, micro motivations. Know your leader's spiritual gift. Know what motivates them on the inside. If their gift is serving, come on. If it's exhortation, understand you're going to get slapped with that from time to time. If it's profit, they're going to question the snot out of you. It's their gift. If their gift is mercy, that's the guy you want to go to lunch with. Bring the gift of giving along and he'll pay. It's the best. Like, it is so good. Two tools that we use. I think we go to the 45, right? Okay, cool. Two tools that we use. We use disc profile, whatever. Like, use whatever you want. I don't love taking spiritual gifts inventories. The exercise I love, if you get a team serving together, is like, what do you think your gift is? And then letting the rest of the room tell them what their gift is. So much better. So much better. Or they say what it is and the whole room affirms them in it. That's so much better than like filling in the circles. The second one that we've been using recently is Working Genius. Super practical. It's an acronym, widget, wonder, invention, discerner, galvanizer, inventor, and tenacity. And what I love about this, if you haven't noticed, my gift is sort of towards exhortation and encouragement, is that all of these leanings are called geniuses. And so you kind of lay it out like whatever one you have is like really vital to the team. And it's actually a genius that you carry. And we've just found that it's been an incredible tool that kind of gets us outside of the normal vernacular for us to begin to work in. Like the tenacity, like I need a tenacity person around me to finish the job. That's what like tenacity is, like they get the job done. Wonders, like they look at something like, how can I make this better? How can we make this better? How can we make this better? I like that guy. Just when he's messing with my stuff, you know? Inventors like, let me on it. Let me on it. I'll build it. I'll make it better. I know exactly. I will invent the thing. I will build the thing. I will get. You see what I'm saying? The discerner. The discerner. That happens to me. That actually happens to be I'm a discerning galvanizer, and so the discerner drives the team mad. Because I can tell you, I don't mean this in a haughty way at all. Like that's going to work. That's not going to work. Why? I'm telling you, it's not going to work. It's not. It's not going to work. Or like that. Like that's. What the problem with the discerner is, you get asked every question under the sun, and everybody wants you just to answer their questions all the time, all the time, all the time. And so I have this rule now that if you bring me a problem, you have to bring me your best solution, and I'll discern that for you. It's good leadership, right? Let's raise them up. I'm not always. By the way, I'm not always right. That's not the point. But discerner. E is enabler. Did I miss E? E is enabler, and that's the person who just loves to come alongside and serve alongside, and like your assistants are great. Like you want to enable, like you want to if you have an assistant who's a discerning enabler, pay them anything they want. They can tell you if they think it's a good or bad idea or not, and they're willing to help. And if they have some tenacity as a competency, whoo! Keep them on the team as long as you can. So anyway, those are some tools that we've used. Guys, here's the deal. You've been called to this. This is what God has entrusted to us. We're only going to go forward as far as we can go together. What are we going to do? When we're assembling the team, we're going to accept that all the guys have a core ambition. What are we going to do? We're going to acknowledge as we work in the room that Jesus is the center and do everything we can. Worship before, during, and after we work. What are we going to do as we put teeth to this plurality? We're going to align, make sure every leader's contribution is aligned to the whole. And then finally, you're going to work overtime to affirm them in the call that they've been given. All right? Great. Awesome. Unica, would you pray for us? Please. Amen. All right. Love you guys.
Great.
Awesome. Praise God. Appreciate you. Thank you, Ryan.
Can I ask you a question?
You may.
Because we're like in a rebuilding phase in our church. We have like elders blew out in a bad way. It's really been hard. But now the new elders, one of the things they want to change, and I'm sure we did something wrong. I believe in the
Sure, I get it.
what do you call it? In the consensus too.
Yeah.
But they're like, you were logged in. I couldn't even get GCC to come in. I couldn't get an external intermediary. We were just stuck. And they're like, we don't want that to happen again. So we're